Good afternoon, Ms Atkins. We're ready to continue.
Oh, thank you, sir. So I'll just introduce you to David and Sue Payne of Peelview Orchard, and their presentation is up on the screen. They've got their case study included in Ms McClung's evidence, but also last week Sue had done her speaking notes, and so we've also provided you with those. So she's just going to take you through those today and then be here to answer any questions together with David you might have about what she's talking to you about. So thank you.
Well, good afternoon, Mr and Mrs Payne. It's good of you to come in and present this evidence, as we call it, and we're very grateful to you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to be heard today. Commissioners, none of us underestimate the challenges you face as you work through the complexities of Plan Change 7 to reach your determinations. We hope that our presentation assists you with this. Rachel and the Hort New Zealand team, often the bigger and better resourced players, have the loudest voices, and the little guys struggle to be heard. So thank you for your support and advocacy on our behalf. To introduce ourselves, my name is Suzanne Payne. In partnership with my husband David, we own and operate a small orchard within the town boundary of Geraldine. Fruit has been commercially grown at Peelview Orchard since 1928, and we believe that some of our pear trees, which continue to crop well, date from these times. The orchard has a long history as part of the Geraldine community and has been owned and operated by only 6 families over that 92 years. We have owned it since 1995. Some of these owners have sold the property when faced with radical industry structural change, for example, the loss of the New Zealand Apple and Pear Marketing Board's local market monopoly in 1993. Another long-term family of owners, 2 brothers, was forced to sell after a run of catastrophic weather events over several seasons. When the son of one of these family members was asked what he remembered of growing up at Peelview, he stated it was a hard life. Nothing has changed, and while it is possible to grow really high quality pip fruit in Canterbury, it is not easy. The orchard continues to grow primarily apples and pears. However, we have pivoted our operation constantly over the last 25 years to remain viable and retain a modest level of profitability. The orchard is within the OTOP zone. Thanks, Rachel. A constantly transforming industry. We took ownership in 1995 with our 2 young children, Ben and Olivia, and having moved from well-paying corporate careers in Wellington. Little did we know how challenging it would be to consistently maintain profitability. We were a bit crazy, I think. In 1995, the property was run down, so we made substantial capital investments and sought to achieve optimal production outputs based on evolving best practice and science-based information. Some of these changes to both the industry and science-based production approach we have implemented are captured in Appendix 1 and 1.1 and 1.2 of this submission. In these early days, our orchard was export focused on approximately 5 of our 10.5 hectares. At the time, in Mid and South Canterbury, there were 15 export orchards packing through 3 packhouses for export by NZA. We continued to restructure the variety mix to new varieties and made significant new plantings up to approximately 9 hectares. Soon after, the New Zealand pip fruit industry entered a period of considerable financial pain, which led to NZA losing its single-desk export monopoly under deregulation in 2001. At a national level, grower numbers were decimated at this time. A report by Corolius in 2006 shows the statistics of this industry decline, where national orchard numbers went from 1,700 in 1996 to 650 in 2005. Coupled with this was the rationalisation of packhouses and, over time, the emergence of massive-scale corporate fruit growing. Most of those to leave were family owners. Times were very hard, but we were new entrants and determined to hang in there. This transformation of the industry led to an overall loss in viability for export production for us, which is why we moved to focus on developing local market niches. See Appendix 1. Up until relatively recently, and the arrival of some new investor activity in South Canterbury, only our orchard and one other, a larger, more corporate operation with a packhouse, survived from these times. Apple and pear growing in New Zealand is now dominated by vertically integrated, very large corporate and investor entities and is extremely capital intensive. We have persisted for 25 years, frequently confronting challenges both weather-related and industry-driven. Our reward comes from growing high-quality fruit, which is enjoyed by our local customers. Our simple operation, under its current model, remains modestly profitable, notwithstanding weather events. However, it requires us to maintain a low-input model, to be highly adaptable, and to explore all avenues for additional income. This adaptability has included, but is not restricted to, fattening and trading sheep, grazing lambs for others, raising calves from 4 days old, contract baleage, and growing high-value crops on small areas, such as hybrid radish for seed. Next slide, please. Ongoing production constraints. We are very small by current industry standards at 8.79 hectares. However, we are efficient, keep costs and inputs low, and are highly effective at producing a diverse range of product to meet specific market niches. For this reason, it is really important to be flexible to maintain our economic viability. As you can see from Figure 1, due to our location within the town boundary of Geraldine, we are also faced with boundary pressures from residential and rural lifestyle properties in close proximity. Geraldine has grown substantially out to meet us over the last 25 years. For example, we are at times faced with reverse sensitivity issues, including those associated with the optics of chemical use and the need to operate bird control cannons during the growing season. This has led to a continued retreat to within our boundaries with the pit fruit operation. These issues will only intensify as Geraldine continues to grow, as highlighted with the recently proposed revised Timaru District Plan, which is included in Appendix 2.1. Thank you. The rationale for our key submissions. We need to be able to grow fruit and vegetables locally to feed people healthy food. When supply does not meet demand, prices rise, and the most vulnerable people in our communities will be the first to miss out. It is important that growers like us have the flexibility to grow these crops to meet local demands. Growing fruit produce locally also reduces the climate change impacts of freighting fruit and vegetables long distances to feed our local populations. We are aware that Swedes grown in Southland are freighted to Christchurch to then return to Southland for sale in the local supermarkets. It's fairly crazy. COVID has certainly made consumers more aware of where their food is coming from, and there appears to remain an emphasis in Geraldine anyway of buying locally and supporting local growers like us if the option is available. Thanks, Rach. Our submission, point 1, regarding minimum vegetable plot size. Rule 5.42CA requires resource consent for any area larger than 0.5 hectares as a change of land use. This would remove any flexibility from our production options. As we have done previously, growing 1.5 hectares of high-value hybrid radish, kale, or any other crop for seed and for export would likely become unviable due to regulatory and consenting costs. Being required to apply for a consent to grow the 1.5 hectares of radish for seed would have made the growing of the radish uneconomic and would have, in all likelihood, have ruled it out. Our submission, point 2, regarding the minimum vegetable plot size. In addition to our first submission point, we note that we do not have an established baseline as a commercial vegetable growing area. This means that under the rules as proposed, it would be a prohibited activity for us to grow more than 0.5 hectares of vegetables in order to alter our operation to retain viability. We really do need to be able to grow healthy food to feed our people. Rach. In summary, in our submission, we objected to fruit growing being grouped with other farming activities as it is very different. We believe that it has been agreed, following advocacy by Horticulture New Zealand, that fruit growing is indeed a very low environmental impact and it will be a permitted activity under PC7, so we do not need to pursue those concerns in this forum. Our main concern with our presentation today is therefore the minimum lot size proposed for vegetable growing and our ability to remain economically viable on a small but highly productive piece of land. The minimum lot size requirement, as in the associated rule framework, does not promote the protection of land for vegetables or high-value seed growing in the OTOP area. We therefore support the Horticulture New Zealand proposal that the minimum size should be at least 5 hectares, not 0.5 hectares. In conclusion, I would just like to read our mission statement. At Peelview Orchard, we strive to produce fruit of the best possible quality. We do this by assisting nature, using sustainable, environmentally friendly horticultural practices. Thank you very much for your time, and we're happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Thank you, Sue. So if there are any questions of Sue or David, they will endeavour to answer them. Thank you.
Commissioner Van Voorhuizen, any questions?
No questions in terms of the issues you've raised regarding the minimum plot size. I understand that, and we've received some evidence earlier in the day from Horticulture New Zealand experts about that, including from a chap called Mr. Nation, who's given us some numbers about the potential impacts on that on nitrogen leaching. So we've got some good information on that before us now.
Thank you.
I'm just interested in the comment you made in the summary. You say it's been agreed following advocacy by Hort New Zealand that fruit growing will be a permitted activity under PC7. Ms. Atkins, I was just wondering if you could explain to me where that arises from and where that now fits into the plan in front of us?
So Plan Change 7 did not address, so fruit growing fits into the definition of low intensity horticulture.
Right.
And that isn't covered by Plan Change 7. Plan Change 7 is very much dedicated toward, the commercial vegetable growing issues. Obviously, in terms of any future plan changes that might arise, they're likely to have an impact on the overarching way the plan works with regard to low intensity horticulture. So we no doubt, Sue and David will be involved in those in the future. And it was just a question of clarity around understanding that was in fact, what Plan Change 7 covers and what the existing plan covers, which isn't something that's before you today.
Right, so the fruit growing fits within an existing definition
Yes.
in the plan that's not affected by change 7.
Correct,
Okay.
correct.
No, thanks for clarifying that.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Do you have any questions, Commissioner Solomon?
No, I have no questions.
Thank you.
Well, Mrs. Payne, how lucky the people of Geraldine and South Canterbury are to have such fresh and sweet pears and apples that you produce.
We would love to send you some in Melbourne, Commissioner, but unfortunately their borders would not allow us to do so.
Thank you.
No, they won't. Just like they won't let me come and meet you. Yes,
That's right.
At the moment.
At the moment, let's hope.
I think your chances of getting back here are better than ours of getting much fruit over that border to you.
I'm afraid you're right.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Coming.
Yes, no, thank you, Sue and David. That much appreciated. So that ends the evidence for Horticulture New Zealand, and I really don't think there's much more I can add to what's already been said, particularly a very suitable closing by Sue and David, I think, in terms of some of the higher points that they've made. I just needed to clarify something Mr Hodgson just said to me just now. It's not that there's no definition of low intensity horticulture, but fruit would generally meet the thresholds that would mean that it wouldn't be required to get a consent. So that's where it sits in the current framework. So as we talked about earlier, we've got a little bit of homework to do, and we've had a quick conversation with the council in terms of the timing of all of that. And I know you're still hearing from submitters this week. So we will make sure that we have those conversations that we need to have in time for the Regional Council to reflect on those and provide any feedback on them in their reply, which I understand will be in the first part of next year. So thank you again for listening to our submissions. Our growers were so grateful to have the opportunity to come and present to you. They don't get that opportunity very often, so they wanted me to just mention that to you today. And any further assistance that I can provide, I'm more than happy to do my best to do so.
Well, the pleasure is ours that the growers come in to meet us and for us to meet them and to have a conversation. So thank you, Ms Atkins.
Thank you, sir.
And I think that concludes our formal business for today. And we'll sit again tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock when I think we hear from Federated Farmers again.
Thank you, sir.